Hello and welcome to what I read in July. I know it's halfway through August, but I kind of been slacking on trying to make this video. So let's go ahead and get into everything I read in July. The first book I read was Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is about Vera, who's kind of like a lonely old lady. She runs a tea shop in San Francisco. One morning she goes downstairs and she discovers a dead body in the middle of her shop. And when the police don't do anything about the investigation, she kind of takes it into her own hands. She becomes like a nosy little old lady, but she does it in a heartwarming way. And she kind of becomes unlikely friends with the list of suspects in her mind. And it's a really fun story. I gave this book 5 stars. When I tell you I had the most fun reading this story, and I loved Vera, and I was talking to my mother-in-law. I was like, Vera, that's my girl, because I feel like I would do that if I was an old lady. And she was just kind of wild to follow. It was a fun story. It's kind of like a cozy mystery. It's not really like dark or twisted or anything like that. So I would highly recommend that one. Then I read The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. This is about a romance novelist and a documentary filmmaker who join forces to create a reality show based off of book tropes. I give this 4 stars. It was a fun read. The characters were very likable. And I was happy, like, the reality show stars the novelist, so I was happy that she, like, didn't get, like, too invested in the cast members, and they weren't too invested in her, so that, like, her and the documentary maker could be together at the end. I was glad about that. Then I read A Walk in the Woods, Rediscovering America on the Appalachian Trail by Bill Bryson. The author takes us on his way through the trail and the people that he meets, and just shows what he discovers about himself along the way. I gave this book 4 stars. I've always been kind of interested on through hiking and through hikers and how they've dealt with the hike. The reason I gave this 4 stars is because he didn't really like finish the trail, and he kind of did in weird sections. I guess I shouldn't judge him on that because I don't know how hard it is, but I feel like it would have been better if he actually finished it. And the first half of the book was really good, but the second half of the book, I felt like he was struggling with his writing style, kind of shifted a little bit. But overall, everybody kind of recommends this book if you're interested in through hiking or learning more about it. It's a pretty good read to kind of learn about the history of through hiking, especially on the Appalachian Trail. Appalachian, who knows? Then I read Once More with Feeling by Lisa Sussman. This is a then and now story that focuses on a pop star who crashed and burned her career after a scandal. She's now focused on her original love, theater, and the director is someone from her past. I give this 4 stars. I enjoyed the story and how it was all written out. I wasn't a fan of like the scandal per se, because she kind of sort of cheated, which I'm not a fan of. But at the end of this day, I kind of liked how they handled the whole situation. Then I read Just Like Home by Sarah Galley. Vera hasn't been back to Crowder House in 12 years, but her mother Daphne is dying, so she reluctantly agrees to come home and settle her mother's affairs and prepare the home for sale. When she steps foot in the front door, she's assaulted by the memories from the past. I give this 3 stars. The author does a good job of keeping you on your toes because you don't really know what's going to happen. The language is written very well. I didn't really care for like the supernatural element that was introduced, but overall it was a very like creepy kind of book, and the cover is really what drew me into reading this one. Then I read The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Clementine is an overworked book publicist with a perfectly planned future. Her plan hits a snag when she falls in love with her temporary roommate, only to discover he lives 7 years in the past. I gave this book 5 stars. This kind of reminds me of the movie Lake House, if you've ever seen that. It's kind of a similar concept, but it's not like overwhelmingly complicated to follow. The characters were very genuine to me. I really liked how the book was written. This author, I've read her other book before too, and I really enjoyed that one, The Dead Romantics. And I really enjoyed like the language and everything like that in it. To me, I would reread and buy this one. Then I read The Plus One by Maisie Eddings. Jude and Indira are childhood frenemies who are forced to be close together when they're crashing with Indira's brother and Jude's best friend before his wedding. I gave this only 2 stars. I really did not care for the story. Like, the beginning had potential for the story, but it felt like both characters were kind of using each other to fix each other, and it tried to make it not that way because the author kept trying to use, like, bring up therapy, but it almost was having the opposite effect of what the author was trying to do. And some of the chapters and dialogue was just like a little too much, so I was just kind of like struggling to finish it. This was kind of didn't quite like it. Then I read Any Man by Amber Tamblyn. Maud is a serial rapist who targets men. The men voice the stories and each have their own experience in healing. I gave this 3.5 stars. I think some of the chapters were more successful than other ones. I really enjoyed like the poet style the best, but some of the other ones felt kind of cobbled together. And it was kind of hard going from one person's perspective into another's without really any transitions. Then I read Together We Will Go by J. Michael Straczynski. A failed young writer places an ad planning a cross-country road trip for those who wish to end their lives. I give this 4 stars. This book is definitely not going to be for everyone because it is talking about the topic of suicide and assisted suicide, so it's a very heavy topic. It follows 12 people as they are planning to take their lives and who wish to experience something before they do so. It's definitely emotional in many different ways, and all the characters are very interesting, and the backgrounds of all of them are pretty interesting to follow, and the ending is not exactly what you think it would be, so for that I would recommend it. And then the last book that I read in July was Tiny Beautiful Things, or Advice from Dear Sugar by Cheryl Strayed. This is a collection of letters and responses from Cheryl Strayed when she ran an advice column online, which was first anonymous. I give this book 4 stars. I actually watched the show on Hulu before I read the book, so I kind of had some insight on like what the letters might be like. Actually reading the letters and her responses, it shows a lot of like the wisdom, laughter, and compassion that Cheryl had, and she has a little bit of truth in there too. So I would recommend picking this up, reading it, and then also I would recommend watching the show on Hulu. So those are all the books I read in July, and I will see you soon for my books in August.